This story is very meaningful. Everyone should hear it. Listen to Brian tell the story. Hi, everyone. My name is Mia. I'm 21 years old, fresh out of college in 2024 with a degree I worked hard for, thinking I'd start my life with just $10,000 in federal student loans, a manageable burden I could pay off with a little grit. I grew up in a small Florida town, raised by a mom who clung to faith like a lifeline and a dad who always seemed to have a plan, even if his temper flared too often. I'm a substitute teacher now, bouncing between schools, trying to piece together a future. But here's the kicker. 3 weeks ago, I stood in front of my apartment, hands shaking, dialing the police to report my own father for identity fraud after he secretly took out $73,000 in loans under my name, tanked my credit, and left me drowning in debt. How did I get here? Let me take you back to the beginning. It all started when I was 18, a nervous freshman stepping into university with big dreams and bigger fears. My dad, John, sat me down one evening in our cramped living room, his laptop glowing on the coffee table. He smelled like cheap cologne and stale coffee, his voice gruff as he waved a hand at the screen. Mia, you're too young, no credit history. Banks won't loan you a dime. But don't worry, I've got it handled. I'll take out the loans under your mom's name, and I'll pay them off once you're done with school. Just sign here. I squinted at the screen, a mess of numbers and terms I didn't understand, my stomach twisting with unease. What's it for, exactly? I asked, my voice small. He snapped, stop asking questions, Mia. Just trust me, all right? His eyes narrowed, and I felt that familiar knot of fear I'd known since I was a kid. Don't push John too far. So I scribbled my name with the mouse, a shaky electronic signature, convincing myself he wouldn't steer me wrong. He was my dad, after all. Fast forward to 2024, I just graduated, clutching my diploma like a trophy, ready to take on the world. Things at home had been rocky. My mom, Sarah, finally left my dad earlier this year. He'd always been emotionally abusive, barking orders, belittling her faith, making us all walk on eggshells. When she packed her bags and took me and my little brother Jake, 19, to a tiny apartment across town, I felt a weight lift. Freedom, I thought, until the mail started piling up. One afternoon, I sat at our chipped kitchen table sorting through bills when I opened a letter from a private loan company. My name was stamped across it, bold and accusing, 48,000 owed. My heart dropped into my stomach, a cold sweat breaking out on my forehead. Mom, I yelled, my voice cracking. She shuffled in, her worn slippers scuffing the floor, peering over my shoulder. What's this? She whispered, her face paling. I thought I only had 10,000 in federal loans. What's going on? We dug deeper that night, huddled over my laptop, the screen casting a harsh light on our stunned faces. Turns out those loans Dad swore were under Mom's name. They were mine, with her just a co-signer. And it wasn't just $10,000. Dad had racked up $48,000 in private student loans, far more than my tuition had ever cost. Then there were the credit cards, 3 of them, all in my name, all closed with overdue balances. $6,550 on one, $2,864 on another, $622 on a third. My credit score flashed on the screen. TransUnion 669, Equifax 577. I stared at those numbers, my chest tightening, a mix of rage and helplessness surging through me. He used my tuition money for rent and bills, I muttered, piecing it together. And who knows what else? Mom clutched her cross necklace, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't know, Mia. I swear I didn't know. The next day, I confronted Jake. He's a lanky kid, still in college, with a quiet anger simmering under his easy grin. We met at a dingy coffee shop near his dorm, the smell of burnt espresso hanging in the air. He slammed a stack of papers on the table, his jaw tight. Mia, you're not the only one. I checked my credit. I'm 40,000 in the hole. Dad took out a loan for some beat-up truck he sold off months ago. I never saw a cent. His voice shook, and I saw the same betrayal in his eyes that I felt in my gut. 40,000? I echoed, my mind reeling. He's ruined us both. Jake nodded, his fingers drumming the table. I'm done with him. What are we going to do? Back at the apartment, I laid it all out for Mom. Her hands twisted in her lap, her Bible resting beside her like a shield. We have to talk to him, I said. My voice firm despite the tremor in my chest. She shook her head, her lips trembling. No, Mia, we can handle this ourselves. I'll refinance the loans, move them to my name. God doesn't want us to hurt him. He's still your father. I snapped, Mom, you don't get it. It's not just the loans. There's credit card debt too. And you don't even have a job yet. How are you going to pay this off? Her eyes hardened, that stubborn faith kicking in. We'll trust in the Lord, she said softly. I wanted to scream. Trust hadn't saved us from Dad's mess. That's when Lena walked into my life. She's my best friend, 22, all sharp edges and no-nonsense vibes, with a job at a local bank that makes her a wizard with numbers. We met up at her place, a cozy apartment littered with finance books and empty coffee cups. She leaned over my pile of documents, her brow furrowed, pen tapping against her lip. Mia, this is bad, she said, her voice clipped. But here's the bombshell. Your dad siphoned off $23,000 in tuition refunds into an account he controlled. I traced it through the bank records. He didn't spend that on your school, probably blew it on that truck Jake mentioned. Or worse. My stomach lurched, a hot flush of anger creeping up my neck. 23,000? I whispered. Lena nodded, her eyes locking on mine. That's identity fraud, Mia. You've got evidence here. Report him, and you could wipe this debt clean. Her words hit me like a freight train. Report my own dad? I pictured him in handcuffs, his gruff voice cursing me from a jail cell, and my heart twisted. But he's still helping us, I argued, my voice weak. He pays our rent, the car note. If I turn him in, Mom will kick me out. I've only got $2,000 saved. I can't survive on that. Lena grabbed my shoulders, her grip firm. Mia, listen to me. He's not helping you. He's using money he stole from you to keep you quiet. You can crash with me if she boots you. I'll hook you up with a lawyer. You can't let him win. Her confidence steadied me, but doubt gnawed at my edges. Could I really do this? Days later, I sat Jake and Lena down in her living room, the hum of the ache filling the silence. Jake's fists clenched as he spoke. I'm in, Mia. I can't keep living like this, owing money I never spent. Let's nail him. I nodded slowly, my throat dry. I know it's the smart move, but it's tearing me apart. Mom's gonna hate me, and Dad, he's still Dad, you know? Lena slid a business card across the table. Mr. Carter, attorney at law. Talk to him, she urged. He's handled cases like this. You've got the refund records, the fake credit card apps. It's a slam dunk. Mr. Carter's office smelled like leather and old paper, a stark contrast to the chaos in my head. He was 40, sharp-suited, with a calm that put me at ease. Mia, Jake, he began, flipping through our files. Your father committed identity theft. With this evidence, the $23,000 refunds, the forged credit card signatures, you can file a police report. If you win, the debt's off your backs, but he'll face 5 to 10 years in prison. Jake didn't hesitate. Do it, he said, his voice hard. I swallowed, my palms sweaty. I don't know if I can watch him go down like that, but I also can't live with $73,000 hanging over me. That night, I stood outside our apartment, the Florida humidity clinging to my skin. Mom was inside, praying, oblivious to the storm I was about to unleash. My phone felt heavy in my hand as I dialed 911, my breath hitching. Hello, I'd like to report an identity fraud case, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The operator's questions blurred together, and when I hung up, I sank to the curb, tears stinging my eyes. I just betrayed my father and maybe lost my family for good. The fallout was brutal. Mom found out the next morning when cops showed up at Dad's place across town. She stormed into my room, her face red with fury, Bible clutched tight. How could you, Mia? He's your flesh and blood. Get out. I can't look at you. Her words cut deep, a searing pain in my chest, but I'd seen it coming. I packed a duffel bag, my hands trembling, and hauled it to Lena's. Jake texted me later. I'm crashing with a buddy. Mom's a mess, but I'm with you. Dad was arrested that afternoon. I didn't see it, but Lena said he cursed my name as they cuffed him. Guilt clawed at me, but so did a flicker of relief. Now I'm bunking on Lena's couch working 2 jobs, substitute teaching by day, waitressing nights, to scrape by. March is my lifeline. I'll get $14,000 in tuition reimbursement from my university, enough to rent a place and breathe again. Jake's pushing through school, dodging mom's calls. Dad's awaiting trial, and Mr. Carter says we've got a solid case. But the cost? My family's splintered, and I'm left wondering if I made the right call. Looking back, I learned a hard truth. Trust can blind you, even with family. Dad didn't care about my future. He cared about his own skin. I don't know if I'll ever forgive him or if Mom will speak to me again. But I'm fighting for me now, clawing my way out of his mess. What would you have done? Let me know in the comments and stick around for more real-life chaos. Peace out. Lena's apartment became my lifeline in those first few weeks after the fallout. The couch was lumpy, the springs digging into my back each night, but it was better than the cold silence of Mom's place. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, replaying that phone call to the police over and over. My hands still shook when I thought about it, a mix of fear and defiance pulsing through me. Lena kept me sane. She'd blast music to drown out my spiraling thoughts, shove a mug of coffee into my hands, and say, "Mia, you're tougher than this. We're getting you through it." Her faith in me felt like a tether when everything else was slipping away. Jake checked in every few days, his voice rough over the phone. "Mom's still praying for Dad's soul," he'd say, bitterness lacing his words. "She acts like we're the villains here." I'd clutch the phone tighter, my throat burning. "She'll see it one day, Jake. She has to." But deep down, I wasn't sure. Mom's faith had always been her armor, and now it was a wall between us. Jake was holding up, though, crashing with a friend, juggling classes and a part-time gig at a gas station. "I'm not letting him drag me down," he told me once. And I felt a swell of pride for my little brother, even as my own resolve wavered. Work kept me moving. Substitute teaching was chaotic, kids yelling, lesson plans unraveling, but it paid the bills. Nights at the diner were harder, my feet aching as I balanced trays and forced smiles for tips. Every dollar went into a jar labeled March, my countdown to that $14,000 reimbursement. I'd stare at it on tough shifts, imagining a tiny apartment of my own, a fresh start. But the weight of the debt still loomed, a shadow I couldn't shake. Lena pushed me to keep fighting. "You've got this, Mia," she'd say, flipping through legal papers with Mr. Carter over the late-night pizza. "Your dad's toast once this hits court." Court. The word alone made my stomach churn. Mr. Carter called me in late February, his voice steady through the receiver. "Mia, trial's set for April 10th. We've got the refund records, the forged signatures, prosecution's building a tight case. He's looking at serious time." I sat on Lena's couch, knees pulled to my chest, the phone pressed to my ear. "What about the debt?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "If we win, it's gone. Wipe clean. You and Jake start over." Relief flooded me, warm and fleeting. But then came the sting. Dad in a cell, orange jumpsuit, years ticking by. I hated him for what he'd done, but the little girl in me still remembered him teaching me to ride a bike, his rare laughs echoing in my ears. "Thanks, Mr. Carter," I managed, hanging up as tears pricked my eyes. March arrived like a lifeline. The reimbursement check hit my account. $14,000, crisp and real. I stood in the bank, staring at the balance on the screen, a shaky laugh escaping me. "Lena, I can breathe," I said when I got back, holding up the deposit slip. She grinned, pulling me into a hug. "Told you, girl. Now let's find you a place." We spent days scouring listings, landing on a tiny studio near my schools, peeling paint, creaky floors, but mine. I moved in a week later, hauling boxes with Lena and Jake, my heart pounding with something like hope. "First round of takeouts on me," I said, collapsing onto my second-hand couch, and their cheers filled the empty space. But Dad's shadow lingered. The trial crept closer, and whispers reached me through Jake. "He's scrambling," Jake said one night over burgers at my place, trying to pin it on some shady friend, saying he was tricked into it. I snorted, anger flaring. "He's delusional." Jake nodded, his eyes dark. "Yeah, but he's desperate. Mom's buying it too. She's visiting him, praying he'll walk free." I set my burger down, appetite gone. "She can't seriously think he's innocent." Jake shrugged, his jaw tight. "She's lost in her own world, Mia. It's just us now." April 10th dawned gray and humid. the courthouse looming like a judge itself. I sat in the gallery, Lena on one side, Jake on the other, my hands clammy as Dad shuffled in, handcuffed, his face gaunt. He wouldn't look at me, his eyes fixed on the floor, and I felt a pang. Anger, yes, but sorrow too. The prosecution laid it out. 23,000 in stolen refunds, 48,000 in fraudulent loans, 25,000 in credit card debt, all tied to his accounts. Mater, how much do I just Carter presented our evidence, bank statements, my shaky signature next to his meticulous forms. Dad's lawyer fumbled. His I was duped story crumbling under cross-examination. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge's voice was cold. John Davis, for identity theft, fraud, and grand larceny, I sentence you to 12 years in state prison, no parole for at least 8. Dad's head snapped up, his mouth twisting in a snarl, and for the first time he met my eyes. You did this, Mia, he spat, his voice venomous as they led him away. You'll regret it. My stomach dropped, but I held his gaze, my chin lifting. No, Dad, you did. The gavel banged, and he was gone, a broken man facing a lonely cell, his schemes shattered. Mom didn't show. Jake said she'd locked Ari herself in her apartment, praying for forgiveness. Hers, Dad's, maybe mine. I didn't call her. The rift was too wide, her faith a gulf I couldn't cross. But outside the courthouse, sunlight broke through the clouds, and Lena squeezed my hand. You're free, Maya, she said, her smile soft. Jake clapped my shoulder, a rare grin breaking through. We're free. The debt was gone, $73,000 erased, my credit a blank slate. I exhaled, the weight lifting, though scars remained. Months later, I'm settling into my studio, teaching full-time now, a steady paycheck replacing the grind. Jake's graduating soon, debt-free, chasing engineering like I knew he would. Mom sends letters sometimes, stilted apologies wrapped in scripture, but I haven't replied. Not yet. Dad's in prison, his appeals failing, his letters to me unopened in a drawer. I hear he's bitter, ranting to inmates about his ungrateful kids, alone with his regrets. It stings, but I can't carry his pain anymore. Life's not perfect. I still jump at bills in the mail, still wake from nightmares of Dad's voice. But I'm building something. Coffee with Lena, late night talks with Jake, a future I control. I learned that trust is fragile, family can break you, but you can rise from the pieces. Dad's suffering his choices, locked in a cage of his making, while I'm stepping into the light, one shaky step at a time. So what do you think? Could I have saved him? Or was this the only way? Should I open Mom's letters or let her go too? Drop your thoughts below. I read everyone. If this hit you, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more real-life messes. Thanks for sticking with me. See you in the next one.